Hello students, in this video we will discuss about the touchstone method by Matthew Arnold. So it is first we talk about the introduction. It is the act of comparison and evaluation holds a unique and important place of literature. So evaluation of different verses, poems, poet theories, historical figures all affects the way anything is viewed by people. So just looking through a pair of glasses changes the way someone sees an object. Using one thing as framework for understanding, and the second changes the way the second thing is viewed. So in literature, evaluations are made only on the daily basis, and reader find all sorts of reason to admire a particular piece of writing, a poet, or even a school of poet. But mostly the evaluation is based on the abstract standard. So the Victorian poet and critic Matthew Arnold create a concrete comparative method of criticism to judge the merit of a piece of written work. It was created to form an estimate of a real excellence and beauty of the poetic word and was introduced into a literary criticism in the study of poetry, where Arnold gave Hamlet dying words to Horatio as the example of touchstone. So the central idea was Matthew Arnold was basically a classicist. He admired the ancient Greek, Roman, and French author as models to be followed by modern English author, and that's why he introduced a method to judge a poetic words using a classical work as a base. So according to Arnold, a real classic is a work which belongs to a class of very best, and it can be recognized by placing it beside a known of classics of the world. These known classic can serve as a touchstone by which merit of a contemporary poetic work can be tested. So, in order to judge a poet work properly, a critic should compare it to passages taken from a work of great masters of poetry, and those passages should be applied as touchstone to other poetry. Even a single line or selected quotation will serve the purpose. So, if the other work move us in the same way as these line and expressions do, then it really is a great work. Otherwise, not. It should be called as the recipe to judge a great poetry. And so Arnold suggests recipe by which great poetry can be judged. He suggests that the line and expression of the great masters of poetry should be kept in mind, and they should be used to detect the presence or absence of high poetic quality and also the degree of that quality. Short passages, even single line, will serve the purpose. Arnold gives an illustration by quoting two lines from Homer, another three lines from Homer, another one line from Homer, and few lines from Dante, few lines from Shakespeare, and another few from John Milton. So he says that the poeted quoted by him are enough to enable anyone from form clear and sound judgments of any other poetry to conduct a realist estimate. He says his points on real classic and the dubious classics offered his touchstone method to distinguish the real classics from dubious classic and to form a real estimate of property. He says a dubious classic, let us shift him if he is a false classic, let us explode him, but he is a real classic. If his works belong to the class of the very best, then the great thing for us to feel and enjoy his work as deeply as ever we can. A best classic is recognized by placing it beside the known classics of the world. It says the superiority over the personal and historical methods of poetry. This method was recommended by Arnold to overcome the shortcomings of the personal and historical estimates of a poem because both historical and personal estimates goes in vain. And so he says that the personal estimate should be avoided because it will lead to wrong judgments. The historical estimate or judging a poet from a point of view of his importance in the course of literary history is also not a true judgment of a poet. Its historical importance makes us rate the work as higher than it really deserves. In order to form a real estimate, one should have the ability to distinguish a real classic. So at this point, he offers Arnold offers his theory of touchstone method. Arnold gave a concrete example of fallacies of the historical approach. Koedman's position is important in the historical sense, but it would be wrong to hold him in the same level as Milton poetically because of his historical position. So, in order to find the truly excellent poetry, one should form real estimate of poetry as opposed to historical estimate and personal estimate. So there are some limitations also. The touchstone method has limitations. Those who do not agree with this theory of comparative criticism says that Arnold is too strict, too exacting in comparing a simple modern poet with the ancient master poet. So although this theory has limited criteria for work to be great, whereas great work do not require any criteria. All great work cannot be of the same time and cannot be squeezed or fixed it at the same frame of classical great work. So with too much importance on judging a poetic work based on classic work, one might fear that the sum of the perfectly well written works would fade into significant insignificance, and the method of comparing passage with the passage is not a sufficient test for determining the value of work as a whole. Arnold himself insisted that we must judge a poem by a total impression and not by its fragments. So the conclusion of this method, despite the limitation, the touchstone method is one of the great contribution of Matthew Arnold, and it provides a concrete form of comparing great poets, and has proved to be an invaluable aid to appreciation of any kind of art. The touchstone method is helpful not merely to compare the masterpiece and the lesser work, but the good with the not so good, the sincere with the not quite sincere. It distinguishes all of them from each other. So I hope you like this short video of touchstone method, and if you want any certain topics, so please ping me on my chat box, and please like subscribe to my channel. Thank you.